After 3 weeks of Formula 1 being away, we are back. Round 13, the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps. We come here as round number 13 of the season as we come onto this impressive circuit, so much history. It's a double-header weekend. Next weekend we're in Italy at Monza, the Italian Grand Prix, the home of Ferrari, before starting the flyaways, the Singapore Grand Prix on the 22nd of September. A week later, Russia on the 29th. Then a 2-week break before the Japanese Grand Prix on the 13th of October. Another break before Mexico, double headers with the United States Grand Prix. And then on to Brazil and the season finale of Abu Dhabi on the 1st of December. Lewis Hamilton has a 62-point advantage in the championship to his teammate of Valtteri Bottas. Max Verstappen is third. He's closing in on second of Valtteri Bottas with 2 wins in the last 4 races. Sebastian Vettel is in 4th place. He's in a battle with his teammate Charles Leclerc. Pierre Gasly now drops to Toro Rosso. He's in 6th and looks unlikely to remain there. Sainz is battling with an ill Kimi Raikkonen this weekend. Kvyat promoted to lead driver at Toro Rosso. Lando Norris is 10th as well. Ricciardo 11th, Stroll 12th, Magnussen 13th from Hülkenberg. Alexander Albon, just 12 races in and with 16 points, is promoted to the team lead role of Red Bull. Perez 16th, Grosjean only with 8 points and looks to be dropped. Giovinazzi and Kubica on 1 point, and George Russell the only driver without a point on the current grid. In the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes are dominant. 438 points they are leading, well over 200 clear nearly of Ferrari on 288. They are 44 points clear of Red Bull. Red Bull promoting up Alexander Albon in hopes that he and Verstappen can close the gap to Ferrari for second in the title. McLaren are well ahead in 4th place. It's the battle for 5th between Toro Rosso, Renault and Alfa, and Racing Point that we were watching. Haas are dropping off that battle a little bit, and Williams are just happy they get money for scoring a point in the championship. It's the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa for 2019, and we are rearing to get going after a very long summer break. Hello everybody and welcome to the Grand Review podcast for the Belgian Grand Prix. What should have been a joyous weekend as Formula 1 returned from its 3-week summer break turned into misery. On Saturday afternoon, Anton Hubert was sadly killed, and that put a dampener on the whole weekend of action. We saw great races in Formula 3 and the Porsche Supercup and Formula 1 to pay tribute to Anton, but still, the emotion is raw. So, let's take a look at the first practice session, but of course it is a sombre mood here in the paddock. So let's start off then with the first practice session that took place this morning at about 10 o'clock UK time, and it was FP1, which saw Sebastian Vettel lead ahead of his teammate Charles Leclerc, Ferrari dominating very much early on. And what Matteo Binotto said yesterday on the press day was that today, Spa and Monza next weekend are crucial for Ferrari. They must, I repeat, must win at one of those 2 races, otherwise their championship hopes are pretty much down the pan, really. As the second half of the season got underway here in the 2019 Formula 1 Grand Prix of Belgium, the Johnny Walker Belgian Grand Prix is the sponsor this year once again. Sebastian Vettel was fastest, a 1:44.574. His teammate Charles Leclerc was second, Max Verstappen third. On his debut for Red Bull, Alexander Albon was 4th, and Valtteri Bottas was 5th, with Lewis Hamilton in 6th place. Vettel lapped the 7-kilometre Belgian Grand Prix circuit of Spa-Francorchamps with the quickest time. He was a few tenths off his best time from FP1 of last year, with Leclerc ending up 2 tenths further back. Interesting to note that Ferrari last year topped every single session bar qualifying 3, which was in the wet. Thank you very much to the virtual statman for that, who put it up on the data channel during the free practice session. Behind the two Ferraris, well, they were the two Red Bulls. Max Verstappen very much getting on with what has been a very successful last 4 races for him. Podiums in all of them. Victory in Austria, podium in Silverstone, victory in Germany, podium in Hungary. He's been getting more and more confident with that Red Bull car of 2019. Getting more and more confident with the Honda engine and the new deal with Red Bull. So already the Red Bull Total and Constructors Championship is better than that last year when they had Renault power. And we all know that Honda want to beat what Red Bull did with Renault in terms of the points this time last year. Well, they've already won 2 Grand Prix. Who's to say they won't win another one here this year so far? Alexander Albon. He impressed, but he's got a new engine, and because it's the car that takes the penalties, he'll start at the back of the grid, so he very much will have an easier start to his Red Bull career. He starts at the back, but he could get up into 10th place. He did that before a few races ago at the Chinese Grand Prix, got into 10th as well, and points as well in the German Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas recently confirmed at Mercedes for 2020, as we said, ended the session in 5th. Teammate Lewis Hamilton had a bit of an interesting problem with his car, because coming out of Stavolo around the curve to Paul Frey before Blanchimont, the car suddenly packed up and he wasn't delivering any power whatsoever, so he was struggling a lot around. But then he turned to the settings to number 3, suddenly green lights across the dash, and away he went. So Hamilton having an issue with his power unit, but all of the Mercedes engine cars have got new power units, so that is the Mercedes team, Racing Point and Williams as well, new power engines across the board. A bizarre incident for Lance Stroll early on saw the right hand part of the Canadian's engine cover blow off down the Kemmel Straight towards Le Combe. It wasn't fastened on properly, so the engine cover blew off, and as I'm sure you saw on my Instagram, a naked Racing Point car. A true testament to what beautiful technology of speed these cars are, and it's very rare you get to see an F1 car actually like that underneath. Moving on, Danny Ricciardo is 8th for Red Bull ahead of Lance Stroll. Teammate Sergio Perez ran out the top 10 along with Carlos Sainz. It was a bit of a interesting first session for the midfield team. Marcus Ericsson, who was subbing for Kimi Raikkonen, well, he wasn't actually needed in the end. Raikkonen was able to head out onto the track and complete both free practice sessions, so Marcus has missed a race in America for absolutely nothing. So we'll see how that turns out tomorrow, if Raikkonen has any soreness. And Lando Norris as well also ran despite having a boot on his foot early on in the week after hurting his right foot during a MotoGP running session after last weekend as well. If you all watch his Twitch stream, you know what I mean. It was disappointing for the Renaults again. They were further back in the standings, and Williams were wrapping up the back. But Nicholas Latifi, ahead of his teammate of Robert Kubica, George Russell, was in the garage, and he was not running in because Latifi was out on the track as their third driver. Let's take a look at the times then from FP1. So Sebastian Vettel tops the first practice session of the Belgium Grand Prix, a 1:44.574. Charles Leclerc is second on a 1:44.788. Max Verstappen third on a 1:45.507. Alexander Albon goes into fourth on his first day for Red Bull, a 1:45.584. Valtteri Bottas is fifth, a 1:45.882. Lewis Hamilton in sixth place on a 1:45.973. Lance Stroll 7th on a 1:46.198. Daniel Ricciardo 8th on a 1:46.426. Sergio Perez 9th on 1:46.433. And Carlos Sainz rounds out the top 10 on 1:46.557. Nico Hülkenberg is 11th on a 1:46.669. Followed by Lando Norris in 12th on 1:46.670. 13th for Kimi Raikkonen on 1:47.024. 14th for Romain Grosjean on 1:47.176. Antonio Giovinazzi is 15th on 1:47.333. Kevin Magnussen 16th on 1:47.488. Then we get Danny Kvyat in 17th on a 1:47.636. Pierre Gasly 18th on a 1:47.968. Nicholas Latifi on his Friday test roll for the Williams team is 19th on 1:48.784. And Robert Kubica in 20th a total 4 seconds off the pace, a 1:48.966. So Ferrari won 2 to start the weekend, very much quite interesting as well. They wanted to win either here or at Monza in order to gain something back from what has been a disappointing year. Would Friday afternoon prove any better for the Mercedes and Red Bulls? Well, it's time to find out. Here's what happened in the second practice session. So let's take a look then at the FP2 session from the Belgian Grand Prix, and it was a bit more of a relaxed approach in terms of the commentary box. I was missing for the first half hour of the session, so it was Megan and Dad who took over the lead commentary duties, and I came in halfway through, and we had a really good conversation for about 15 minutes, and Megan disappeared, and it was just me and Dad left in the commentary box talking, and we had a really long discussion, and he has a theory that I'm sure he'll bring up during the podcast later on in the weekend. He has a theory, the fact that Ferrari are going all out in the practice sessions in order to get positive headlines back in Italy, and that Mercedes know they're doing this but not going to push their engines too far. I think that is absolutely right, because it explains why Ferrari always seem to top the Friday sessions and Mercedes always seem to come back on the Saturday. We know that Mercedes sandbags, but it's an interesting point of view that Ferrari just go for it on the Fridays, and that is actually their true pace. So we'll see if that pays out tomorrow in practice. But it was a good start, as Charles Leclerc was the fastest on a 1:44.123. Sebastian Vettel was second, Valtteri Bottas third, Lewis Hamilton fourth, and surprisingly Sergio Perez went into fifth place as well. It was a bit of an interesting one whatsoever in that session. It was stopped with 3 minutes to go, as Sergio Perez, who did end up in fifth place, he stopped at the exit of Malmedy with what looked to be an oil fire at the back of his car and a turbo failure. Me and Dad think we'll yet to have that confirmed though ahead of tomorrow's practice 3 session. But it was a cranking noise, and like an ice cream, like an ice cream generator. It was that type of noise. Suggests turbo. Anyway, the session was red flagged and it wasn't restarted, and it was all Perez. That as well, we saw that the other Racing Point of Lance Stroll complained of having a very hot rear end of the car. So that behind his back and underneath his seat was getting hotter and hotter. He had to come in and change over. So it was interesting to see that it seems that Mercedes power unit, this new spec engine, the Spec C, seems to be having issues. So Hamilton had it in the morning, now Force India had it in the afternoon. No such problems so far with Williams, but it's an interesting thing to keep an eye on ahead of FP3, so just jot that down. The Mercedes engine not reliable. We'll see if Mercedes factory team go back to their other engine, the previous one, for tomorrow's session, because you can do that. You can change engines before having to commit to it on Saturday morning. Bottas, who was in third place with that engine upgrade, the only driver to lap the 1 minute in the 1:44 bracket, stopping the clocks 8 tenths slower than Leclerc to go third, and up 10th on fourth place teammate of Lewis Hamilton. As I said about Racing Point and Sergio Perez, fifth place in the session. Behind Perez on the timesheets, Max Verstappen, the fastest of the 2 Red Bulls, winding in P6, complaining throughout the session of poor power unit response issues. Now, he did this in free practice 1, and now it was Verstappen complaining in free practice 2 about the power unit issues. He had to box, check the car out, it seems alright, but still, these engines haven't raced for 3 weeks. Some of them are brand new, so they're going to take a little time just to kick in and reheat. Alfa Romeo's Kimi Räikkönen showed off his 4-time Belgian Grand Prix winner credentials to go P7, while Stroll proved that his teammate's pace was no fluke to go 8th ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, and as well Perez second to top 10 finish of the day for Stroll as well. Considerably, the recent form of McLaren might have been slightly disappointing with their Friday afternoon running in FP2. However, P11 and P15 with Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. Sainz, though, along with Kvyat, Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, Stroll and Albon, will have a demotion on the grid after qualifying for having new engine penalties. So that is, count them with me, Kvyat 1, Ricciardo 2, Hülkenberg 3, Stroll 4, Albon 5. So from everyone from 14 up, they'll qualify where they start. Everyone from 15 below, penalties. We're into that stage of the season. Do you remember a few years ago at the Italian Grand Prix where Lewis Hamilton was the only driver to start where he qualified from? in that crazy Italian Grand Prix where the rain came down and everything changed because everyone else had grid penalties. Yep, it's going to be another one of those days, isn't it? The pole sitter might be the only person to start where he actually qualified, unless everyone gets a penalty. It's very bizarre, this situation in Formula 1. We touched on it yesterday, me and Dad, about how we should have more engines in the Formula 1 season, especially with the calendar going up to 22. It seems to be more likely. Williams, P19 and P20, George Russell back in the car after Nicholas Latifi in the morning. He was 4/10 quicker than Kubica. So Ferrari seemed to have the advantage here on Friday. In both the sessions, Vettel Leclerc, then Leclerc Vettel. It seems like Red Bull and Mercedes are going to have to pull their stocks up tomorrow in FP3. Let's just take a look at the times quickly for free practice 2. So Charles Leclerc tops the second practice session on a 1:44.123. Sebastian Vettel is second on a 1:44.753. Valtteri Bottas third on a 1:44.969. Lewis Hamilton is fourth on 1:45.015. Sergio Perez fifth on a 1:45.117. Max Verstappen is sixth on a 1:45.394. Kimi Räikkönen seventh on a 1:45.708. Lance Stroll is 8th on a 1:45.732, Daniel Ricciardo 9th on 1:45.735, and Alexander Albon rounds out the top 10 at 1:45.771. Carlos Sainz is 11th on a 1:45.999, followed by Romain Grosjean in 12th on 1:46.120. Nico Hülkenberg 13th on a 1:46.209. Danny Kvyat 14th on 1:46.214. Lando Norris 15th on 1:46.258. Antonio Giovinazzi is 16th on 1:46.328. Followed by Pierre Gasly 17th on a 1:46.374. Kevin Magnussen is 18th on a 1:46.399. George Russell 19th on his first run here at Spa in an F1 car on 1:47.887. And Robert Kubica is 20th on 1:48.331. We didn't know it at the time, but a very tragic Saturday had begun at Spa-Francorchamps, and it all started with third practice for the Formula 1 Belgium Grand Prix. Here's what happened, and Lewis Hamilton making a very rare mistake. Well, let's get into the third practice report then here, and immediately there was drama wherever you looked, because the biggest story coming out of free practice 3 was that Lewis Hamilton made a rare mistake coming into the Fagnes chicane. He just caught the rear curb with his rear tyre and it skidded him along the track. It looked like there was a problem with the car as well, because he was wrestling with to get back control, but he hit the wall, damaging the front suspension. It looks to have cracked also the rear suspension, so the Mercedes team are in a race against time to get it repaired for qualifying. However, with just under an hour to go, it looks like they might be able to get that car repaired. Whether or not it's damaged the monocoque and they'll need a new tub, that's a different question. If it is, well, it's a pit lane start, so stay tuned for that information. But it was great news for Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel. Ferrari have topped all of the practice sessions this weekend as well. They have been absolutely dominant. The top 5, well, Charles Leclerc topping on 1:44.206. From Sebastian Vettel second, Valtteri Bottas was third, fourth for Daniel Ricciardo. Impressive for him as he was ahead of the Red Bulls of Max Verstappen in 5th place as well. It was a very interesting session. The only thing really to happen was Lewis Hamilton having that mistake. Just caught the inside 6th gear corner Fagnes chicane and just hit the wall. Kept his helmet on as well as he came back into the pit lane. Went straight into an engineering debrief. It completely wrecked the car. I'm just looking at the screen. Front suspension's off. There's a little crack at the top of the nose cone area where the car connects to the tub, the survival cell. Whether they'll need to change that, we don't know. We'll keep an eye on that as we go. Daniel Ricciardo, as he said, a surprise 4th for Renault as well. 5th place for Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. He was complaining of traffic all the way throughout the session. Alexander Albon finished in 20th, no doubt a very different programme as he prepares for a race simulation. He's going right from the back of the grid though, so expect that to see a bit of a situation. Sergio Perez recovered from his Friday dramas though, to take a strong 6th place as well. He's gone back to the Spec 2 engine of the Mercedes after his power unit failure yesterday. So far all the other Mercedes are staying with the Spec 3 engine, Whether Hamilton's is damaged, though, that's something that we need to report on in qualifying. Going further on, Antonio Giovinazzi was just behind his teammate of Kimi Raikkonen, and Pierre Gasly completed the top 10 as well. Ferrari then are dominant, it seems, on practice here. FP1 was Leclerc, Vettel, FP2 Vettel, Leclerc, FP3 Leclerc and Vettel. Who's going to take pole position? Well, it seems to be a Ferrari, but which one? That's going to be the key. Well, let's take a quick look at the times then from the third practice session. So Charles Leclerc tops the third practice session on 1:44.206. Sebastian Vettel goes into second place at 1:44.657. Valtteri Bottas is third at 1:44.703. Daniel Ricciardo in fourth place at 1:44.974. Max Verstappen fifth at 1:45.312. Sergio Perez in sixth on a 1:45.512. Lewis Hamilton seventh and crashing out at the final chicane does a 1:45.566. Kimi Raikkonen goes into 8th place at 1:45.659. Antonio Giovinazzi is 9th at 1:45.688. Pierre Gasly rounds out the top 10 on a 1:45.752. Romain Grosjean 11th on a 1:45.806. Nico Hülkenberg 12th at 1:45.855. Kevin Magnussen 13th on a 1:46.004. Carlos Sainz is 14th on a 1:46.017. Lando Norris 15th at 1:46.270. Lance Stroll 16th on a 1:46.379. Danny Kvyat 17th at 1:46.642. George Russell is 18th at 1:47.858. Robbie Kubica 19th at 1:48.350. And Alexander Albon doing race run simulations ahead of his grid penalty at the back of the grid is 20th at 1:50.681. Just after qualifying then was the Formula 2 race, and it provided tragedy. Here's what happened in our report the following day. Yesterday, after the Formula 1 qualifying, a horrible accident occurred in the FIA Formula 2 World Championship race. On lap 2 of the race, coming into Eau Rouge and Radion, Gianni Alesi lost control of his car and went into the barrier backwards, knocking off his front wing. He bounced back on to the circuit, and taking avoiding action, Anton Hubert in the Ardennes hit the wall at the exit of Radion at high speed. Now, what would have normally been a very light incident at Radion, unfortunately, as he came back onto the circuit, he was struck by the car of Juan Manuel Correa at full speed. It was a horrific accident which split both cars apart and breaking the survival cell of both cars. Juan Manuel Correa was airlifted to hospital yesterday and was treated with suspected minimal spinal damage but 2 broken legs. Unfortunately, the race was red flagged straight away, and the whole paddock fell into silence as we waited on the news of the charming Frenchman of Anton Hubert. It's a very difficult time, as I'm sure you can understand. Now, unfortunately, an hour and a half after the race, we sadly lost Anton Hubert. The news was announced via the FIA Formula 2 press conference, and the whole paddock fell silent and into a deep state of mourning. He was just 22 years old. He was part of the Renault Sport Academy drivers of the future, and he certainly would have made it to Formula 1. He was the last ever GP3 champion in 2018 I should say, sorry, and he was absolutely spectacular. In 2011, in a Formula 4 category race, in his first season in single-seaters, he won 11 of the 21 races, becoming the champion. In the GP3, he won 2 races out of the 11, but became the World GP3 champion. A sad, sad loss in motorsport. The Formula 3 race this morning took place, as will the Formula 1 this afternoon, but everyone racing with very heavy hearts. Anton Hubert, 22 years old, sadly passed away yesterday in Belgium. Now, a few minutes ago, I spoke to our pit reporter and my dad, Ian Burge, about what happened yesterday as we were watching the race together, and here's what happened. So, Dad, you join me now. You don't know what to say in these situations. We were watching the race yesterday, but you sort of knew immediately that something was worse.
It was a much more serious accident than the norm. The fact that you could see that there was the front and rear of two of the cars there.
Yeah.
That was bad, and it's just you just get this feeling, don't you? Just like you did with Justin Wilson.
Yeah.
When Justin's car went down the track, and there was no attempt to
save the car.
Braking, or you knew that there was something serious, and unfortunately it is serious. We were very lucky this morning in the F3 when Askelainen.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It was.
But as we were trying to say on Thursday, it's a dangerous sport, and the poor lad's paid with his life, and it's awful.
The Formula 2 race this morning was cancelled. I know we were discussing this yesterday, but the whole meeting really should be cancelled. As we saw this morning in Formula 3 with that accident, their minds are not on it.
Well, that happens in all walks of life, and sometimes you do have to go on, but I don't think it's when you've got drivers driving at that sort of speed with not their full mind on the job. I think it's wrong. Senna should have taken the thing of if Senna had done the same as Gerhard Berger and not raced when their friend was killed the day before, we'd still have Senna. But he did, and he got killed. And in the end, it wasn't anything to do with his driving.
Yeah. It was. But there is another factor as well that you've got to add into it as well. The fact that so many of the F1 drivers that are in today, like Charles Leclerc, Esteban Ocon.
Well, Charles Leclerc has also got the fact that he lost Jules. And, that brings that back into the forefront. He's known Hubert since he was a little boy, as is Gasly and the others, and they're only young, right? They've never seen it before, I don't think.
No. Yeah. It's going to be a difficult race later, and
it's never easy at any age.
No.
But the young tend to be fearless, and then when something like this happens, they realise their own mortality as well, and then they start thinking, like the rest of us, what a waste yesterday was. A waste of someone.
Martin Brundle said, after Senna and Ratzenberger died, that the next race in Monaco, he was looking around and seeing all the drivers that were only in their first year, and they were shell-shocked, as you said. So
everybody's shell-shocked.
Yeah.
They raced this morning, but I don't think anybody was up for it. It was just the fact that they didn't want to let down the TV audience.
Yeah, and nobody looks up already. Yeah.
Your mum said maybe this will make them better drivers. Well, I hope it does.
Yeah.
Right.
It was.
But the accident itself was a category of errors.
Yeah.
Most traffic cops will tell you that an accident is not one single thing. Right? There's always two or three things that make an accident, especially a fatal accident like that. And we don't know what happened, but we do know that oil was dropped on the circuit during the Formula 1.
Yeah. Yes.
qualifying, don't say who it was.
No, yeah.
Right, which team it was, and things like that. We know oil was put on the surface in 2 different places. There was also something to do with one of the support races, and nothing was done about it. Right, that's the first thing that came to my mind. Whether it had an effect on it, I don't know. But something made young Alazy's car move
at
that point.
And it
right?
just kicked off the whole chain reaction.
That was the chain reaction. And the lads, Hubert's car bounced into the barriers, right? And then
Correa.
In an unfortunate thing, into the path of a car that was trying to avoid the lot in Correa. Correa was trying to avoid the lot, and the car spun into his path, and there's nothing he could do about it, and there was nothing anybody could have done about anything. Hubert couldn't have done anything to stop it.
No.
You know, it's just one of them horrible things. And if you're going to watch most racing, that's going to happen.
Yeah. It's a harsh fact. On the back of every ticket, it still says motorsport is dangerous, and you can never be too safe.
No, I'm looking at Hubert's mum just there. And I thought she was quite brave this morning coming out before the Formula 3 race.
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody's going to be upset about this, especially the French, you know.
It's, as you said, it's another one.
French.
Yeah.
Right. It brings back memories for everybody of different things in their lives. Right. And you just, you know, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I have seen it so often. I have seen it in Le Mans. I've seen it in IndyCar. And it's tragic every time it happens. Dan Weldon, Justin Wilson, you know, and even on a press day, we lost the girl.
Yeah.
What's her name? I know she died a year later.
De Silva. De Silva.
De Silva. Right, we lost her, and we've lost
a number of MotoGP riders, Lewis Salam in Moto2, and that was weird because see, there's a memorial for him at the circuit, and when I was there, there's a massive banner and everyone's written everything on it and their memories of him. It's one of these situations where no matter what sport it is, in motorsport is a family. I mean, you saw in the IndyCar yesterday, they were all lining up at the end of the pit lane doing a minute's silence, and that's all the way in America. It's hit everybody. There's no champagne at any races this weekend at all across every category.
Well, why should there be?
Yeah, exactly.
Why should there be? You know, I know that they've got contracts, and that's why the champagne was put on this morning. But the team manager made sure that the 3 of them up there didn't touch the champagne, just picked them up and took them away, and that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It's respect for the lads.
Absolutely. We're going to be in the commentary later, and we'll be on the podcast in a few days. But it's going to be tricky for everybody because it's one of these situations where it's the first time since Senna and Ratzenberger that we've raced the very next day after an accident that has claimed a life. And so that means none of these guys on the grid have had that before. And it's weird.
I'm not sure, but I think they have. What about Thingy's son in F3?
Henry Surtees, yeah. That's a good point.
Some of the ones on that grid today would have raced with Henry, wouldn't they?
Yes. Yeah, just a few of them. Grosjean, maybe.
Yeah, but that was a tragedy as well. we know what the French feel like today because we've had quite a few of our British drivers die in the recent years, especially in IndyCar.
Yes.
Dan Weldon, Justin Wilson, and in F3, as we just said, Henry Surtees. And it's always a tragedy when it happens, but you just got to you've got to respect with his mum coming out this morning and standing there, the family must be with it. So I don't like it, the fact that they're racing today, but if it's what the family wanted, then that's fine.
But it is going to be immensely hard.
It's not up to the likes of me, is it? It's up to Chase Carey went to see them yesterday, and in the F2 paddock, and they decided to cancel the F2 race, but not the F3 or the Porsche or the Formula One, and at least he asked them, which is a lot of them don't.
Yeah. I'm right.
Okay then.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. We'll see you later on. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks. Bye.
Somberly, here's what happened in qualifying for the Belgium Grand Prix. A very difficult Saturday here in Spa then, and we must do the qualifying report, but of course everyone's minds on what happened just after qualifying in the Formula 2 race with Anton Hubert. But we will continue on and we'll give you the qualifying report as it happened then as usual. So qualifying 1 as well, Charles Leclerc once again was on top of his performance. The session was only 2 minutes old, however, when the red flag came out as an engine blow-up for the Mercedes-powered Williams of Robert Kubica blew up spectacularly coming out of the Blanchimont area, coming into the bus stop, and of course that put him out. Now all the Mercedes engines are running Spec 3 this weekend, and already we've had 2 failures in Perez and Kubica, and we've also had problems with Stroll and now with Hamilton as well, so not a great situation overall. Mercedes, however, the delay was a welcome. They managed to repair Lewis Hamilton's car after he crashed in free practice 3 earlier on in the day. Leclerc was top of the timesheets, half a second quicker. Then Sebastian Vettel with Valtteri Bottas third, and Hamilton a second further back in 4th place as well. Knocked out of the session were Gasly, Sainz, Kubica, Russell as well. Because during the end of the session, Antonio Giovinazzi's engine blew up again on the way down to Eau Rouge and brought out the red flag and stopped the session early. On to qualifying 2 then, and it was once again Charles Leclerc who was dominating, but Sebastian Vettel was able to cut into his teammate's advantage here at Spa and gained a few tenths of a second. Hamilton went into 3rd place as well. He was just ahead of Verstappen as well. The Dutchman Eastman in 5th place, a tenth behind Bottas, who was 4th, and 3 tenths of a second off the pace. Everyone went out for another run though with 5 minutes to go, bar Verstappen, Stroll and Albon. Albon of course standing for the back of the grid with his engine penalty, which means he started 14th in the qualified, but will go down further back on the grid. As a result, Grosjean ended up 11th fastest, and he was knocked out along with Lando Norris, Lance Stroll, Alexander Albon and Antonio Giovinazzi, who never took part in the session after his failure in qualifying number 1. An interesting Q2 then, but it was all shaping up nicely for qualifying 3. Q3 was very, very bizarre because at the start it was follow me leader. Max Verstappen went out first, followed by the 2 Mercedes and the 2 Ferraris, and the 2 Mercedes nearly making contact coming out of Stavelot as they were all trying to get a slipstream run in that first sector as you come out of the source, up Eau Rouge and Radion and down the Kemmel Straight. They were all looking for a tow where you are flat out for about 80% of that sector. So they were all following up. They nearly crashed into each other, and which resulted in a lock-up on both Bottas and Hamilton's tyres, which meant that they didn't set a fantastic qualifying 3 time on their first run. Leclerc, however, did go fastest overall in the beginning, with Vettel 2nd, Bottas 3rd and Hamilton 4th, and Verstappen as well coming up there. But everyone knew it would have to take a second run, to which we got The third pole of the season for Charles Leclerc with Sebastian Vettel alongside. It is the 63rd front row lookout for Ferrari, and just behind them is the two Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton staying third and Valtteri Bottas in fourth. Now, it's a very interesting result this, so let's first take a look at the qualifying classifications and have a look at how the starting grid currently lines up for the Belgium Grand Prix. Pole position goes to Charles Leclerc then. He starts on row 1 alongside his teammate Sebastian Vettel. Lewis Hamilton is third and Valtteri Bottas fourth on row 2. Row 3 sees Max Verstappen and Kimi Raikkonen. Row 4 Sergio Perez and Kevin Magnussen. Row 5 Romain Grosjean and Daniel Ricciardo, who has a grid penalty. Row 6 Lando Norris alongside Nico Hülkenberg. Row 7 sees Antonio Giovinazzi alongside Pierre Gasly. Row 8 George Russell and Carlos Sainz. Row 9 Lance Stroll and Alexander Albon. And row 10 for Danny Kvyat and Robert Kubica. So the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa, the first race after the summer break, what should have been a great race to watch and enjoy. Pretty much all our minds were on Anton Hubert. Here's what happened though in the Belgian Grand Prix. Commentary from Joshua Burge, Megan Burge and Ian Burge.
The Belgium Grand Prix, race 13, lap 1.
It's been a tricky weekend with the tragic passing of Anton Hubert. It's a Ferrari front row. The first race back, 5 on, action at Spa-Francorchamps. Great start from the two Ferraris. Carlos Sainz has been left on the grid as they head into turn 1. Lando Norris filtering behind and there's a contact up in the air. Kimi Raikkonen, he hit with Max Verstappen. There's Hülkenberg in the air as well. Norris gets out of it as they head down the hill. Norris up to 5th. Bottas now right behind Sebastian Vettel, who dropped into 3rd place. Up into 2nd, Lewis Hamilton. And once again, for the 2nd year running, here comes Sebastian Vettel. Right round the outside of Lewis Hamilton, coming into the corns, and he gets through. It's a Ferrari 1-2, Mercedes 3-4, Megan.
It's a Ferrari, Mercedes.
Oh, and into the wall, and that's not nice to see. It's Max Verstappen with so many of his home fans here this weekend. Verstappen is in the wall. Where is he in the wall? It's in a Rouge. That's a fast one, and it's caught the safety car as well. Verstappen out. Oh, he's got him big time, Dad.
I think you'll find that when we see a replay, that the contact, he seemed to go into that barrier straight, and that usually means that some kind of suspension damage.
He's out of the car, seems to be okay, which is great news after what's happened at the top of that corner this weekend.
Well, that's a first safety car and yellow flag, but I can put on my little...
Well, that was just a concertina. Take us through the start, Megan.
Okay, we can see Leclerc has an amazing start, but...
Vettel doesn't get a good getaway. He leaves himself compromised for Hamilton. There's the contact with Verstappen and Raikkonen.
One person needs to run over debris. Yeah, that's Hülkenberg. So I think that could cause problems later on.
We'll keep an eye out. Verstappen had a good start. Oh, what do you make of this, Megan? Did he just... Raikkonen... Well, there's Raikkonen. Perez is in the way.
Verstappen...
Yeah, Dad's right. Front suspension failed. Replay here. This explains why McLaren were slow in the pit stop. They had a slow rear. 6.1 seconds. Oh, was it a jag? Oh, he stole the car. He stalled the car.
Oh, that could have been bad.
He stole the car in the pit lane. Hey, still 6.1 seconds to get that car restarted. That's quite an achievement.
Yeah, and to us, at the minute, I'm agreeing.
Raikkonen in the pit stop again, Megan. So that's his second stop of the afternoon already.
That isn't good. Hold on.
Yeah, safety car is in this lap, Megan. Safety car in this lap.
Lap 3.
Look at that. Charles Leclerc holding up his teammate, and that is Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz.
Do this every single time. Every single time there's a safety car go in.
Where is that? Is that at the bus stop? Yes, turn 18 bus stop. And that's well, they're coming to the green. So the safety car's ending. So we're coming to the green. There's no overtaking till the start-finish line. So they might just have that, but the boards are still waving. The safety car is still there. I hope Leclerc knows knows. He does now. I hope the field knows, because that's through Blanchimont. And
safety car deployed again.
Lap 4.
the safety car has left the drivers at the exit of Stabilo and into the curve de Porfrere. And Charles Leclerc will lead his teammate Sebastian Vettel, and then followed by the two Mercedes of Hamilton and Bottas round to the line. It's a long lap here, so it's a long time to get this one restarted. Look at them all warming the tyres there.
I love how the Ferraris are just like in sync.
We're ready to go. We're nearly ready. Ready. As soon as the safety car board goes out, we'll be back to green, but there's no overtaking until the start-finish line. Vettel already feeling a bit racy as they come in. Into the last few corners then, coming to the line, and the Belgium Grand Prix at racing speeds is on, and Charles Leclerc leads the way. He had a good restart to his teammate Sebastian Vettel there, but Vettel locks up into turn 1. He locks up again into La Source, a bit too deep. Hamilton comes back at him. They're going to go side by side. Vettel has the advantage. Hamilton, though, will have the slipstream coming through Eau Rouge, up through Radillon. Once again,
I think everyone got fastest lap time there.
well, I was about to say that, but actually looks like Hamilton's going to be under pressure for his teammate Valtteri Bottas, who's coming up alongside. Bottas has to try the outside line as Hamilton defends the inside. Didn't get through there.
Lap 15.
Haas versus Honda-powered engine. Ferrari versus Honda. Well, Honda have won this year. Ferrari haven't actually won this year, Dad. That's an interesting point. Honda have won. Ferrari haven't.
Ferrari, for all their dominance, make too many mistakes.
Surely not on the inside. Albon launches out the inside of the bus stop and
What
gets
a fantastic
through.
move.
That is spectacular. At the bus stop. You don't see too many of them.
Lap 17.
Well, hang on a minute. Look at that. Perez towards the outside of Kimi Räikkönen coming into La Source. It's the pit lane. It's Romain Grosjean, so he finally pits. But now, forget the Truly train. It's the Räikkönen train as Grosjean comes out in 11th. And now look at this. Perez is easily going to have him. But he's going to, I thought he was going to have a look at Eau Rouge there. It's not a place to overtake. But tell that to Pierre Gasly. What a run through Radillon. Down the Kemmel Straight. Gasly's surely going to go to the inside. Räikkönen's right there. It's 3 abreast. Räikkönen 6 like the stone. Perez goes through, as does Gasly. At the same time, Stroll gets through on George Russell. Wow!
Meanwhile, Räikkönen thinks, what just happened?
Surely, as Dad said, floor damage. Surely there's floor damage there. He lost so much straight line speed. Räikkönen, that was just wow.
Räikkönen low-key thinking, what the heck just happened?
Lap 19.
And it's lap 19 of 44. So tweet hashtag AH19 and a round of applause. I think there's going to be a fun graphic, but you can hear it just in the distance.
Here's a moment to...
There you go, look.
The round of
A round of applause here. A round of applause on lap 19 of 44 and a standing ovation in memory of the charming Frenchman Anton Hubert, who was tragically killed yesterday at the Formula 2 race here in Belgium. And you've got to admit, Megan, a talent gone way too soon.
Yes.
Lap 31.
Vettel second, Hamilton third. Hamilton's getting very close through Stabilo, through the curve to Porfrere. He's going to have a go to the bus stop. Blanchimont is next. Surely he's not going to have a go through Blanchimont. This is the fastest part of the track. This is Blanchimont. Vettel's right there. Hamilton looks to the outside. Surely not a move round the outside of the bus stop. They go side by side. Hamilton tries, has to come back in. Now,
Will he get him on the straight?
regroup, down to La Source, have an inside line. Lewis Hamilton looking to take second place away. Not going to get him here. What about the exit? Eau Rouge is next.
He's not going to try on Eau Rouge, is he?
He's not close enough. They blast through, up the hill, into Radillon, down the Kemmel Straight. DRS open. This is the best chance for Hamilton to go through. Vettel has to block the inside line. Hamilton goes to the extreme outside line. Sweep whips round the outside with a spectacular overtake, takes second place away from Sebastian Vettel. That was brilliant.
Lap 35.
Ricciardo has to go defensive. Gasly tries to go round there. Kvyat goes right round the outside of the Ocon. Kvyat goes through. Gasly, meanwhile, goes through on Grosjean. And now Albon's got to deal with Ricciardo for 8th place. So is he going to go down? Ricciardo goes on the dash to Albon. Right round the outside. Can he hold it? Cuts back to the inside. Is he going to go round the outside in no name? That's not an overtaking spot. It is an overtaking spot if he names Alexander Albon. What a spectacular couple of corners from the young gun.
Lap 41.
I'm going to have to stop you here. Look at this. There's another overtake going on as Hülkenberg goes through and Romain Grosjean for 12th place. That was a lovely move up the inside. Oh, double barrel. There's contact. Off goes Grosjean. Stroll goes through. Went up the inside and there was contact there as well. And Grosjean, unfortunately, has to go back and live another day, Megan.
Lap 44.
Final lap, the call of the Belgium Grand Prix here at Spa-Francorchamps. Charles Leclerc has led since the very beginning. Lap 26 retook the lead away from his teammate, but pole position, Leclerc, fastest in free practice 1, fastest in free practice 3, fastest in Q1, Q2, Q3. Lap record currently going to him. He has been unstoppable
What
this
was that
weekend.
lock-up?
Who was that? Was that? Oh, that's a big lock-up. That is a big lock-up. That was Gasly just in front of them and off the track. And through goes Hülkenberg. Gasly out of the points. Hülkenberg goes back through. Not good at all. Few more miles left. Down to turn 8. Into Ravage. Hamilton is 1.2 seconds back. There's a yellow flag out on the track.
That's an Alpha.
That's got more monitors than us, and that's a big one. Giovinazzi into the wall. That's at the exit of Piron before the family chicane. The radio says he's okay, by the way. The radio says he's okay. So that was a biggie. He's gone in straight there. Is that a brake failure? It looks to be. Although I can see donut marks. He must have gone in backwards or hit forwards.
Or he just got really excited that it was the end of the race.
The gap's less than a second, by the way, everybody. The gap, less than a second. Look, Giovinazzi.
Here with the advantage.
Tony, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. Brilliant.
I think, if you look, Giovinazzi was pushing on that last lap.
I'm going to have to cut you off, Dad. I'm sorry. He lost his godfather in 2014 as Jules Bianchi. He lost his father in 2017. He lost one of his closest friends yesterday. Charles Leclerc, for the first time, is a Grand Prix winner and wins the Belgium Grand Prix. Get in there. What a weekend. What a weekend. The highs and the lows, they come together. The best way to honour one of his best friends, Leclerc wins the Belgium Grand Prix.
I think we lost Norris.
I saw that.
Yeah, we did.
But I wasn't too sure.
He's down there.
Lando Norris, yes, out to the race, comes home 11th officially, but Leclerc victorian.
Replay.
That was a mistake by Giovinazzi.
That was
Right.
a biggie.
Giovinazzi, Kvyat, they all had good days.
What's happened?
Lewis had a good day. This is
anti-stall.
Lando Norris.
It went into anti-stall. That looks like a power unit failure to kick it in.
Clutch, it says.
Yeah, not good.
Albon, brilliant drive by Albon.
Oh,
right, he's got to be in contention.
That's Sorry, Dad. Albon up into 5th place, but Perez forced him off the track. Perez forced him off the track.
Naughty boy.
Perez is
that was
my driver of the day is got to be Charles Leclerc.
I agree. Megan?
Mine's Leclerc as well.
So all three of us have got Charles Leclerc as driver of the day. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's a.
Followed by Albon.
Yes. I think that's the first time all three of us have been unanimous with our choice of driver of the day.
Next race, Italy, Monza.
Well, that was a few moments ago, obviously, in the race, and you join me now to give you the rundown. Now, we've already heard from Dad in this podcast. We've heard Megan in the commentary. Unfortunately, she can't be with us here today, as it's her first day back at her school, so unfortunately she's not with us here today, but she has written me down her results of the 1 to 5 categories, so for the first time this year I get to read them out, and I'm quite excited about that actually. First of all, we'll start off with the DHL Fastest Lap Award. That was to Sebastian Vettel, so he gets that extra bonus point. It was a 1:46.409. The DHL Fastest Pit Stop Award, well, that went to Williams as well, and that was a 2.02 second stop, and despite not finishing in the end, it was Lando Norris who had the Driver of the Day award as well. So here's the results and the classifications and the 1 to 5 rating. Charles Leclerc wins the Belgian Grand Prix. Megan's giving him a rating of 5. Lewis Hamilton second place in the day. She's giving him 4. Valtteri Bottas in third gets his same number of points with 3. Sebastian Vettel in fourth. Megan's giving him 4 for a team effort as well. Alexander Albon in 5th place. Megan's giving him a 5 after starting right at the back. He's mustered his way into 5th place as well, and the highest scoring Red Bull driver. I agree with her, that's absolutely fantastic. Sergio Perez in 6th place as well. Megan's giving him a 3 for today. Danny Kvyat is in 7th place as well, the same result in 3. Nico Hülkenberg in 8th gets 2 points, along with Pierre Gasly in 9th who gets 4. And Lance Stroll in 10th place as well gets 3 points. Despite not finishing, but coming home in 11th place because he was past 90% of race distance, Megan has given Lando Norris a 5 for today. Kevin Magnussen and Romain Grosjean, they've got her lowest of just 1 for the car this weekend, and the amount of overtakes we saw in the race. That's 12th for Magnussen, 13th for Grosjean. Danny Ricciardo in 14th place then. Megan has given him a result of just 3. For George Russell, it's the highest of his career so far this year, with 4. Kimi Räikkönen in 16th place, Megan's given him 3. Robert Kubica in 17th place as well, she's given him 3. And Antonio Giovinazzi crashing out the last lap, Megan gave him 3 for that overtake he did at No Name. Carlos Sainz was out of the race as well, but Megan gave him a 2. And for Max Verstappen, she only gave him 1 after crashing out on the opening lap of the race. But overall for the weekend, she gave him 3. But of course those points don't count, so it's a 1 in the race for Max Verstappen. So, a very difficult weekend here in Belgium comes to an end. Everyone now refocuses to the next race, the Italian Grand Prix at Monza in just 1 week's time. We'll be back on Thursday with the preview show, Friday for practice, the same with Saturday, and Sunday with the race preview as well. And we'll be back next Tuesday with the podcast as well from the Italian Grand Prix. All that we can say is it's been a horrific weekend here in Spa. Our thoughts are with Anton Hubert, his family and friends. And everyone always asks, why do I say bye for now? I never like saying goodbye. It's always too final. But in this case, it's just with deep sadness. It's goodbye, Anton Hubert. Goodbye.